Camaro needs a rear end, obviously. Welcome back to another CNC Metalworks. Appreciate you watching. Shutting in the electrical for it, so put this whole car on. Running bigger wheels than normal on most Camaros, first gen anyway. Got some nice fat 20s in here, but the wheel opening is really close on these, so we're going to add about 1.5 inches. Just simply cut, slice, boom, take the 1.5 inches out, slide this thing back. We're going to take that panel back in, and as you can tell, you end up with an opening that kind of looks like it came that way for the wheel. cut the trunk lid a little short, 2.5, 3 inches. And at the same time, radius in these corners, like the stock top, the stock part of it. Back in the day, they had something called monocouping. Basically, the panels on top, pancake. Pancake was a really familiar term, but by running these radius corners, cutting the panel a little short, this whole seam, the weather line, everything will be on top instead of running off the edge of the car and having a lip and all that. And with that said, that will allow us when we create this spoiler effect, like the Z28s and stuff had back in the day. And of course, everything we're doing on the back of this thing is custom. So we'll do our own style or our design. But what I want to do is as the back of this car is created, I want this all to be kind of a one-piece deal. And this deck lid will look just like it's just kind of plugged in. This is the piece that was cut off the back of it. As you can see, one of the things that you can pick up on some of these styling cues is I noticed that the edge is straight until you get right about to the center. And so it's just a very, very, very slight V shape that went down through here. So we're going to pick up on that. And as y'all look at how I do things, there's a lot of ways to do things on this stuff, but I ran a very, very slight score line, very small. Not only allows the shaping to be on point and to go rather easy, you notice with the pliers, little hand and dolly work, but what we'll do is we'll come in here and we'll recreate this lip. And when I recreate this lip, this easily will give me the lift pattern that I'll need. And I'll actually bench build that whole lip to install on the back side of this, and that'll tie in and keep a nice weather tight seal, but it'll also give us the structure and the shape we need to hold it in place. when you don't have the rubber to cover your English wheel. A little bit of Gorilla Tape, run around, keep it smooth. I like to cut the line of the gap so there's no jump. And this is keep your panel straight. What we're going to do to this panel here when we roll it out. All right, real quick, got our little back panel rolled out. It's really cool about that little bit of Gorilla Tape, just to show y'all. And I know you've seen the rubber sleeve they use on English wheels, but little Gorilla Tape, cheap, quick, fast. I don't have to use it very often, so it works really well for me, but keeps your panel really nice and straight, as you can see all the way through. But we just want a little bit of shape, a little bit of crown, as you can plainly see, and that'll give us some strength, keep it straight for our future tail lights, probably a gas lid, whatever we think we're going to be doing with this back panel. But it also kind of helps start closing that rear end in and helping us with our structure. Our shape that we ended up with off the pattern we did earlier, if you remember, we've got these pieces here that we put in, and it was based off the trunk lid edge that we cut off when we were doing the pancake trunk. But I also noticed not only was it a straight edge, this straight edge down through here to a V point, but this was kind of interesting too. See, I don't know if I can get a good angle on it, but this actually goes down through here, hits high center at the same point, and goes the other way. So even the trunk lip edge is V-shaped. And I realized, excuse me, I realized it's almost like an optical illusion when you V-shape these pieces. In this case, we're going to do a little more than the factory did. We just wanted a little more edgier in the design. But when you get back here and you look overall, it looks straight, and it actually measures really straight. But that optical illusion, there's a slight, almost a 1/4 inch difference by vertical measurement in the middle. But to the naked eye, it looks straight. So we went with that. Also, the angle with the 1 inch based off our lip edge and our back lip edge right here, that'll dictate the actual angles and shape that we want these little tailored pieces going into this back panel. Where I got this idea from is basically in the shape here. We've got about, give or take, 1 inch that we're working with. We've also got an aggressive line angle change. It's too much sweep for the 1/4, but at the same time, it complements our new tail lighting. We're doing a more modern tail lighting, but we want to kind of keep it Camaro-esque, I guess you would say. So with our pattern that we pulled off this and splitting hairs in this angle here, I believe we'll be able to pull this shape off because we'll be losing these bumper bunks. the backside of our pancake trunk lid for the Camaro, and you can see we've done a little bit of cleanup, just wire wheel, a little acid treatment on surface rust. This trunk was actually really pretty good shape, and then just use a sealer of any kind. I used a self-etch chromate primer, like a zinc chromate primer. I get this stuff in spray can. It's affordable, and it makes the utility quickness a lot better than mixing up a bunch of stuff. We got this piece here that was kind of the high where the original latch and all went in, and it bumped up, and it was really, really big. Remember, what I'm trying to show y'all is you can do some really cool custom work, and normally in this kind of stuff, you would cut the whole skin off and reshape and wheel out and run an edge and go all the way around with the wheel and crimp this over and shrink and stretch, and then we'd build a low pan and all that. But what I want to show y'all is that you can do some really decent work and still come up with a really cool piece at the end of it that, when it's all said and done, you've got a nice workable piece that looks cool, but at the same time it works really well. So then here, if you notice and you remember, we cut these corners based on that little score line that we put in with the little high speed. Just real simple crimp and dolly, bring these edges over. If you look closely, you can actually see some of these overlaps. We can continue this cut in here. This is basically the same principle still. It's shrinking, but as we bend this over, we need a flange. We need something to control it. So we did the same thing with the old tailpiece, the actual tailpiece that we cut off. And this is the backside, and you can see it was solid, just had surface rust in it. Went ahead and cut off what we needed to, shaped our corners. It had a lip on it for the old trunk lip that dropped over that GM did, and it also had square corners on it. Well, because we're pancaking and radius in the corners, you can already see we've got a really nice beginning shape here that'll cause us this tail pan. We'll bring this up on these little tab tongues we made and just kind of get us started. And we'll tack weld this in, cut our lines, butt weld all this stuff up. And then we'll actually be able to hammer this edge over when we make a little fill piece in here. And the idea is just to make it kind of look like something like the factory might have done. And just, some clean metal work, good seal, got rid of the rust, all at the same time. One of my favorite things is the fact that by utilizing one of these pieces or keeping some of it, metal tends to have a type of memory to it. So that'll allow us to get this shape here and keep the contour. And by keeping the trunk base in, we keep our overall shape without losing a whole lot of up down in it. That'll establish our back line that will bring all this together and make a really nice gap once it's all finished. So back to work. Didn't want to bore you guys with a whole bunch of welding and grinding and some really bad high speed, along with some crappy elevator music, you know. So, once this was all welded up, the best thing for me to do was to separate the skin. This is the old skin here from the back end of the trunk lid that supports everything. And that allows us to planish all that weld out. We can planish all that weld out, the whole thing, and get our shape back. And as you know, you stretch that shrink from that weld, and everything goes pretty much back the way it goes. We got our little corners all cut in real nice and shaped for the new pancake shape and receiving the seal. And I've heard a lot of different versions over the years at taking a hem off a panel. And honestly, guys, all I can tell you is after doing this for 40 years is what works for me. There's a lot of different ideas on it and stuff. You can pull these hems too much, and like an old clothes hanger wire, they'll start cracking and breaking and busting. But I find that if you're careful and just peel the panel up enough to get the panel out, there's these little itty bitty spot welds on most panels that you can find. I just use a little deburr tool just to kind of get those out and get the pinch up. Once the pinch is actually up, where I can shake that panel out and just get that thing out of the way. And the other advantage is the backside of all this stuff. We can do a little bit of quick work on some wire wheel and brush and acid treatment and good old fashioned. I like this Rust-Oleum. It works great on the lawn furniture. It's been out in the sun for years. So this will seal up real good. It's affordable, and we'll go on to putting this together and show you all how that works. Just a quick tip for you guys. I don't know if you're familiar with these pliers here, or little crushes, but they call them, I think they're called Oetker clamps. They use them, you can get them in Lowe's or Home Depot, but they use them for them little crush rings for all the PVC and plastic and plumbing. And what I've done is kind of created a little really cheap, affordable tool. But if you look closely, you can see I ground one side down and put almost like a little cup or a little edge to it where it'll hold the edge of the panel. And on the other side, I just kind of sharpened it up. And basically, you grind, dig it out, and then use a little end bit to create that little ditch. But what's cool about this, and I'll show you over here, and it just works for me. And I know they make these hem tools, but this is super cheap and really easy. And you can kind of get the idea. Our panel will go around the edge, and it gives me a place to grab the pinch. And then I can actually grip this and lift it out. As I lift it out, I can walk that edge up, and it just kind of relaxes that hem where you can separate the panels. All right, that'll be the new shape for the pancake trunk lids, what they used to call it back in the day, pancake. Basically, you can see how much we've shortened up the space here. Radius the corners, and finished up our metal work. One of the things I like to do is when the metal work is really close. Looks like we got a oak leaf, piece of sandpaper. Anyway, I like to finish up the metal work with epoxy primer. It does a couple things. Not only protects metal, obviously, but it lets me know that we're ready for body work. We've got a couple of dents and dings, things we're going to have to finish out with some body work, but this will give us our new shape. And right in here, we'll be putting the tailpiece. One of the biggest things that I wanted to try and do is having a single tailpiece in here. So we get a custom trunk lid, but the gap will be on the top side. We've still got to put the seal plate under here, which will elevate us back up where we need to be. And once that's fabbed in, and we've got our new spoiler in effect, we won't have these clevis lines or separation lines like the Camaros had. This will be one more, I don't know, slicker, better looking, hopefully. That's what we're going for. All right, just a quick catch up on the inside of the car. We finished up all the flooring. Went into a full panel back here. We're doing something a little bit different than your typical wheel tubs and the package tray and the empty spot. We're going to have a couple changes that we're making. There's a reason why we're doing this that will affect the interior and how it goes together. All the last little bit of welding and seam sealing and finished little tunnel pieces and rear end pieces and back end cutouts for the future dual power window setup. Everything is set in place. We've got all the components and parts and pieces that we're going to be using, and we went front to back with the Dynamat. I've heard all kind of different versions of this where you just use parts and pieces in certain sound deadening areas. Just as a reminder, this floor pan has been doubled, and there's an insulated flame-proof, heat-proof liner that's sandwiched in between the metal on all the panels. Even if y'all ever just do your firewall, you would not believe the difference it makes. It's really incredible. But the other school of thought on the Dynamat is if you're going to do all of it, do all of it. And as you can see, we've covered everything. We will cover the ceiling once the cage and everything's made. So we really want to take advantage of soundproofing this thing for lots of different reasons. Motor, exhaust, and stereo inside. We want it to work really well. brass. Copper works good too. These are the pieces that are for the corners. Came out pretty good. They're really nice and flat and straight. We've got our little bias lines that we press into these things, and you'll see how this all works out. It's going to be the new shape for each side of the quarter panels to come into on the tail pan, and we'll show you how these go in next. What I did here is I marked this out just to show you what's going to be cut out. This little section here will be out also, but this is the old corner, the quarters, and we've got our pieces in from earlier. And what we wanted to do was a little bit toward the new lighting. When this gets all tied in and these gaps filled, we'll start putting in the tail lights and what we're going to do with the back panels. We got some really cool ideas for back here, and of course our bumper trick. Well, there they are, the new pieces. Cut out the old, put in the new, and start the design for the rear quarters, which will be really cool because it'll get along really nice with the new tail light idea we got for this thing. It's our own version of the custom Camaro, and if y'all want to see that, because that's the end of this video, you're going to have to stay tuned and look for the next video. Easiest way to do that is, as you know, subscribe. It's free. Turn on those bells and stuff, and we'll see you then. It's going to be cool. We got a lot to do. I hate the finish. These outtakes suck. Gotta make sense out of it, right? Let's try again. Levi, I love you, buddy. You're a great editor. I'm really sorry. If you want to check it out, nah, it's no good. That's just terrible. This is an awful finish. These outtakes suck.